Welcome inside Bonfire Midweek. Darren Bombing, joined by, look who it is to my virtual right, our good old friend Nick Kowalski. Welcome back to Bonfire Sports, my friend. For those out there, of course, you remember Nick and the great work he did for Bonfire Sports during the most recent Grey Cup. Nick, you're now with the BC Lions. How are you?
Super happy to be here, Darren. Thanks for having me on. I'm doing well myself. And thank you for the kind words too. That Grey Cup week we spent together was some of the best CFL days I've ever had, in terms of not even work, but just being around the game overall. And it's super nice to catch up. I know we had you on our podcast last week to preview the Bombers and Lions game, and it's always nice talking CFL football with you.
No doubt, man. And you're one of my favorite people in the entire CFL landscape, like hands down. And to be on with you and Matt Baker on your Lions podcast last week was tons of fun. I invite people or encourage people to go to bclions.com, check that out. You guys, Nick, people that have been following Bonfire know the quality work that you do and that the BC Lions digital media team is doing. But we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about the Blue Bombers win in Vancouver back last weekend, look ahead to their game against the Calgary Stampeders at IG Field on Friday night. We'll take a quick spin around the Canadian Football League and what was just a 3-matchup week 5. We'll talk about Garrett Marino and Jeremiah Masoli and all of that nonsense that happened in Saskatchewan over the weekend. And we'll touch on some other news and notes across the CFL as well. Nick, I've been looking forward to this show for a long time, and not just because the Blue Bombers flexed on the BC Lions this past weekend, but just to go around the CFL with you. Full disclosure for everybody, Nick, you are an employee of the BC Lions now. So, that keeping in mind, let's look at CFL week 5. And it started with the Stampeders in Edmonton for round 2 of the Battle of Alberta. And frankly, the Calgary Stampeders look to be in playoff form right now. A 49-6 win. Bo Levi Mitchell, his new favorite target, Malik Henry, a guy who really didn't have much production at all last season or early this season. He's got 2 monster games under his belt, the 2 most recent weeks. What have you seen in the Stamps?
I think the most impressive thing about Calgary right now is that Bo Levi Mitchell looks very good. And I know there's been a lot of doubts entering this season based off his last season and even the end of 2019, how that went for Bo Levi. But he's been fantastic so far. And he, like you said, he's found that connection with Malik Henry. I think that we all thought that going into this season, Calgary had the weapons at receiver. They have Kadeem Carey at running back. Of course, they have some studs at O-line, especially at the Canadian value. But now that Bo Levi is clicking, Calgary looks like a real threat. I mean, they still haven't lost a football game. It's still a team with great coaching. McMahon's a hard place to win, and I can just go through out their roster. I love their linebackers. They have Trey Roberson. I think people are forgetting that's almost a good thing if you're of that lockdown corner-esque, that people are kind of forgetting about you.
No
that
question.
Means that you're not getting picked on and you're not in the spotlight for the wrong reasons. But I mean, Calgary looks like a force, and we can get a bit ahead of ourselves here, but I'm really looking forward to that when they travel to IG Field this week to see how that game goes down.
No, it's going to be fun on Friday night. And of course, myself and Chris Walby will have pregame coverage as we always do. The day before the game, we'll go live at 3:00. You'll be able to watch that on demand or listen on your favorite podcast app on demand anytime at all. But live Thursday at 3 with the Friday kickoff, Bombers Stampeders here in Winnipeg. You mentioned some of those players that are your favorite to watch in the CFL, Nick. I'm totally with you. Kadeem Carey, for my money, is my favorite running back to watch right now. Probably a good honorable mention to James Butler with the BC Lions. He's had some huge games and showed a lot of burst in his game. But I'm curious of your take on Edmonton right now. They're obviously struggling. You saw them in week 1 when the BC Lions, you saw them in person when the BC Lions pretty much handed them their hat in week 1. Nick Arbuckle traded to the Ottawa Red Blacks. He's really kind of, getting the stamps on his CFL passport across the league right now, looking for that kind of Kevin Glenn trifecta or nine-fecta, I guess. Trey Ford, a little bit nicked up right now, injured himself in that game. Kyle Oxley was also a little bit nicked up. How do you see the quarterback situation in Edmonton right now, with it now suddenly looking like Taylor Cornelius will come off the one-game injured list and start for Edmonton in week 6?
Yeah, the fact that Taylor Cornelius is back is very interesting. It seems like when Chris Jones took over this season, he kind of wanted to leave that 2021 season all behind him, but Taylor Cornelius has crept back into 2022, and by virtue of multiple injuries and obviously the Arbuckle trade that you mentioned. But Trey, if we want to rewind a bit, I thought Trey Ford was pretty solid. I know there was a lot of hype about him, especially because they did get the win in Hamilton. I think that played a lot into it. Even though Ford's numbers maybe weren't off the charts, and he didn't necessarily win that game. It was more maybe Hamilton throwing it away at the end or fumbling it away, to get literal. But I think Edmonton's they're a better team than they showed in week 1. I think we can all agree with that. I mean, they're in a tough West Division. Chris Jones is definitely trying to experiment and trying to find maybe like the right formula when it comes to their roster right now, especially on defense. I mean, we've seen former Bombers receiver Charles Nelson start at safety for them. I think we've seen Toby Antigua's another guy I want to say that started at safety for them. He was about like a 6'4" body frame, so just totally another trying out bomber. Yeah, and just trying out a bunch of different rosters and seeing what can stick and what'll work for them. And I thought especially in that first quarter against Calgary, they were hanging in there. And Trey Ford had made a couple special plays before going down to injury. So unfortunately, they're going to have to move on without him for the time being. But I didn't mind Taylor Cornelius last year either. I didn't think he was. I mean, he wasn't like a star off the bat, or he didn't have great performances by no means. But I thought there was something there with him, at least with his big body and his strong arm.
He definitely has the strong arm. I'm with you there, Nick. The thing I think that really stands out when I think of Taylor Cornelius, and a lot of people think of Taylor Cornelius in his first CFL season in 2021, was those late game interceptions. That definitely highlighted his time in his first year here in Canada. It highlighted his time in his first year in pro football in the XFL. Or pardon me, was it the XFL? Was the AAF?
I haven't followed those leagues too closely, to be honest, so
all those American fall
they kind of blend in.
Yeah, they really do. So wherever it was, though, where he played, he was the same deal with throwing fourth quarter interceptions and just not able. I think it was the XFL, if I'm not mistaken. But it'll be interesting to see Taylor Cornelius go at it. They've got a Montreal Alouettes team with Danny Machocha at the helm. That kicks off week 6 in the CFL on Thursday night. But back to week 5. So Stampeders get a dominant win to move to 4-0, 49-6 in Edmonton over the Elks. That brought Friday night's game, which was the Ottawa Red Blacks in Saskatchewan, for a rematch between these two teams. And Saskatchewan did not look anything like they did the first time these two clubs played. They made much less mistakes and much less errors than they did the first time they played Ottawa. 28-13 was the final for the Rough Riders. A big win for them at home. Cody Fajardo, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But of course, that game low-lighted by the Garrett Marino hit, the Dino Boyd, Garrett Marino shenanigans that were going on there for a stretch of time, and the plays leading up to the hit on Jeremiah Masoli. And then once Masoli left the game, really Ottawa just couldn't get anything going with Caleb Evans. We will talk about Garrett Marino, but just as far as these two teams right now and that game, Nick, anything stand out to you? It was the first game we got to see William Powell. He looked pretty darn good, 5.3 yards per carry and having 58 yards on the ground.
Yeah, just before Mazzoli did go down, Ottawa was running the ball with Powell and at will, it seemed like, on that drive, and then it did end, like you said, with Caleb Evans entering the game. But my biggest takeaway right now is that Saskatchewan is a total different team at home, and I'm kind of stating the obvious right now. That's kind of what it's been for years and years now with that crowd at Mosaic. But they're a tough out at home. And I'm really looking forward to that Labor Day game with Winnipeg to see how they stack up on the road in an unideal environment. But I mean, I'm pretty high on the Riders overall. I think their D line right now is the best in the CFL. I don't think, I mean, that might not go over well with the Winnipeg fans, but I think just looking at their sack numbers, and they did lose Pete Robertson for a couple weeks coming up here though. But before Pete Robertson went down last week, I mean, Saskatchewan, they were getting tons of pressure, tons of sacks. And then they got their linebackers are very solid too. They got veteran presence. I think Nick Marshall's having a very solid start to his year after maybe a iffy 2021 and a little bit before that as well. But I guess another thing with the Riders too is it really comes down to how Cody Fajardo can connect on the deep ball. That's been the theme for him the last year too. And I know he was having a bit of problems hitting Duke, hitting Shaq when he was healthy on a consistent basis, right? And I think that's Cody's probably going to take the Riders as far as they can go, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Riders will go as far as Cody Fajardo takes them. But, you know, everybody talks about the players on the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense, and like they've got a lot of talent. You mentioned that defensive line. You know, when you got AC Leonard, you know, Darnell Sankey, new to the team this season, Larry Dean, not new to the team, but healthy and able to play. A lot of good defensive backs. Mike Edom on the back end, a veteran Canadian at safety. But to me, it is, why is the name escaping me? The defensive coordinator of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Yes, Jason Shivers. So he was an assistant for Chris Jones when Jones was running things in Saskatchewan. Jones moved on. They promoted Jason Shivers to defensive coordinator. He took a little bit of that Chris Jones defense, melded it with his own, and every single year since then, Shivers' defense has gotten better and better and better. To me, that's the strength of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. As far as Blue Bombers fans out there watching here on Bonfire Sports are concerned, that's, I think, the area of focus Winnipeg needs to have in those 3 meetings with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And as somebody pointed out in the live chat, shout out to everybody who's watching us live on YouTube and Facebook. If you're watching us on Twitter, head over to youtube.com/Bonfire Sports, join the live chat, get involved in the conversation. But those 3 games between Winnipeg and Saskatchewan in a matter of 4 weeks or a month, with a bye week kind of mixed in there for Winnipeg, it's going to be very interesting to see how those 2 teams shake out. But yeah, I mean, Saskatchewan, I think they're kind of picking up steam. We've seen the Calgary Stampeders, the BC Lions look extremely solid in the West Division so far here in the early going, Nick. That brings us to the final game of the week. That was the BC Lions hosting the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, a battle of the unbeatens. A young, talented, really the story of the CFL in quarterback Nathan Rourke going up against the story in the CFL for the last year and a half, 2 years, I would say it's fair, in Zach Collaros. And it was the veteran versus the protege, and the guy with all the experience and the Grey Cup rings going up against a guy, second year in the league, 24 years old, first year as a starter, who looks so calm and composed. Before we get into Winnipeg's 43-22 win in Vancouver on Saturday, Nick, you work closely with him and everybody on this BC Lions team. What is your perspective or insight on Nathan Rourke as a man, as a player off the field, and then obviously what he does on the field?
Frankly, he is fantastic. And I've had the pleasure of filming him in the off season because my job right now is the videographer for the BC Lions. So I work closely with Nathan. I work closely with the entire team. But with Nathan, he's taken his mechanics very seriously these last year and a half overall. And I think he had the coming out of college, one of the knocks on him was that his throwing velocity wasn't there and he couldn't make longer throws, and his just overall mechanics weren't fully developed. And he's really taken that, I guess, as a point of emphasis in his last year or so of training, and he trains out in North Vancouver with this kinesiologist named Rob Williams. And if you ask anybody around here, you can ask Farhan Lalji, who's also a football coach in the Vancouver area. He speaks super highly of Rob Williams. Farhan's actually who connected Rob and Nathan together, and Rob has plenty of university athletes. He even does virtual sessions with collegiate students in the NCAA. But Nathan takes football very seriously, and it's really his life, and he's a very, very critical of his own work. Even those games where he was missing 3 passes in the entire game, he was going to the media and saying, "Oh, well, I did this wrong, or I did this wrong," or I even know that he'll message Rob and be like, "Oh, I missed this one throw. Like, why did you'll ask him about the mechanics and all of that." But to summarize, he's a very hard worker, very talented quarterback, and we've seen that he can use his arm. We've seen he can use his legs too. We've even hit up people back in his who cover the Ohio Bobcats back to his university days, and they were saying the scary thing about what he's doing in the CFL level right now is it's exactly what he was doing at the collegiate level with Ohio. He was that people. We were talking to Ohio broadcasters who were saying that Nathan, it's a short passing game. It's precise. It's very quick out balls and just high completion percentages. And he said that with Nathan using his legs, it also opened up the running game for the running backs. A couple of running backs he played with are actually in the CFL as well. AJ Ouellette in Toronto was one. But I think the sky is really the limit for Nathan Rourke. I mean, he's only 23 years old too. That's the other thing. It's pretty crazy to see what we have in the CFL I mean, it's his first year starting. He's a second year player, but just the way he started out this season's been everything I imagine he could have hoped for.
Yeah, no, you know, Nick, you touched on something that's really stood out to me about Nathan Rourke in speaking to the media, just the way he carries himself. Most impressive to me is, as you said, those games where he missed 3 passes all game and he's like 92% passing or whatever it is, and throwing for a whack load of yards and being responsible with the football, is that he still constructively criticizes himself and criticizes his own game and looks at the ways he can get better. As you know, you're a born and raised Winnipegger, and seeing the Mike O'Shea mentality come to fruition here in Winnipeg is that you're never satisfied. You never rest on your laurels. You always look to get better, whether you lose by 20 or win by 20, lose by 2 or win by 2, you look at the areas you can improve on. I see that in Nathan Rourke. He just seems to have the right chemistry and the right mix, in his mental game. Obviously has the talent and the skills, and it helps a heck of a lot when you got a good run game, seems to be rejuvenated offensive line in BC this year. They're playing better than they have in a long, long time. I would hate to see what Mike Riley could have done with, the protection the Lions are giving Nathan Rourke this season. A good run game in James Butler. And then, of course, we've seen the emergence of new players in BC, but those ones that we're familiar with in Brian Burnham, he should be back soon. A scary moment there for him. And, of course, our thoughts are with him, one of my favorite players in the CFL. And then Lucky Whitehead, of course. When you have that weaponry around you, it's no doubt has helped Nathan Rourke settle in a lot easier and earlier than maybe some other quarterbacks in the Canadian Football League have.
Yeah, and then to add on to your first question, as a person, he's an amazing guy too. Very, very kind, very polite, very soft spoken. Often has a smile on his face when he's not studying the playbook or thinking about football. The guys here, they all believe in him. I saw that from really when I got here in January, that we had pretty much the entire all the Canadian offensive linemen live here year round. Joel Figueroa was also someone who was here in about February-ish, and you could just tell that they all knew that. I mean, from the top down too. Like, we had Neil McAvoy and Rick Campbell, the 2 co-general managers, say they announced that it's Nathan's team when Michael O'Reilly retired. Like, we're going with Nathan this year, and
that shook people up a little bit. That shook people up. It really did.
Yeah, and they had the utmost faith in him, and I think it trickled down to not even trickled down. I think the locker room just naturally saw that, yeah, this guy is a baller at the quarterback position, and he's the guy you want leading your football team. whether it's from a vocal standpoint or even his mentality on the field. Like he's someone that will leave it all out there, do whatever it takes to let his team get the win. I know, for example, I think Matt Baker was joking around with him on an interview the other day saying, how are you going to follow up that 400-yard game with a 500-yard game? And he said, no, we're just going to follow it up with a win. And because that's the only thing that's on his mind right now is just winning football games and doing whatever it takes to get the team wins or improve the team overall. It's not about the personal accolades or the records that he's breaking right now. He doesn't like that attention. And I think that's out there right now, that people know that, but he's just the type of guy you want leading your team.
No, just as a fan of the game and a fan of the Canadian Football League, I can't wait to see what Nathan Rourke shows us in the months and years to come. Very bright light in the Canadian Football League right now. But of course, he had his first loss of the season, 43-22 to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers back last weekend, Nick. This game, rightfully so, was touted as the early Western showdown, and the two hottest teams, I would say, both the historical hot team and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who remain in meaningful games, 22-1, or now 23-1 with Zach Collaros at quarterback, and then against the hottest team to start the season in the BC Lions. You were on the field for this game. I caught you a couple times on the TSN broadcast on the BC Lions sideline. What stood out to you in this game, maybe on first glance or first take, when you think back to Saturday night?
My front row seat showed me that Zach Collaros is a very tough man to catch. That was my one takeaway. He was ridiculous with evading pressure, because we were getting to him, and pretty much everybody in the defensive line, especially the ends, they were getting in the backfield, but they weren't getting to Zach, and that was the problem. And ultimately, the people are the reason why that I thought Winnipeg really ran away with that game. I mean, I put it out there on Saturday night that I thought that was maybe Zach's best game as a Blue Bomber. And
Could
maybe
be, yep.
The numbers don't really reflect that. But the main takeaway from me was that we haven't seen this year either. I'll preface this. But last year, even let's take the 400-yard game at BC last year. That, I mean, some people might say is Zach's best game as a Blue Bomber. But there were a lot of times where Zach, to be truthful, was kind of throwing 50-50 balls up in the air and letting Kenny Lawler make plays for him, or letting Nick Dembski even at times make highlight reel catches. Lawler was definitely the main guy that was doing it throughout the whole season last year. But was there a ball on Saturday that Zach threw up and the receiver had to make a play in a contested catching situation? I can't really think of many, because Zach was
maybe one to Ellingston, but yeah, maybe.
There was one in the first quarter where he kind of threw it a little past him, but he was still open, and Ellingston still came down with it. But wherever the ball needed to be, Zach was putting it there, and it was never in a way that a BC line defender could have put their hands on it. Even it was really insane to see. And the third down, or the third quarter drive, where it ended in that highlight reel Dalton Schoen touchdown, he had the other like Patrick Mahomes-esque throw where he's like parallel to the field, and it was just, I mean, it was tough to watch on my end, but I was pretty impressed with what Collaros did. And I know I was waiting to see a game from him like that, to see that he could really come to that MOP self and really show that he's still the top guy in the CFL, and his team is as well. And they definitely showed that on Saturday. I give full credit to the Blue Bombers. They beat us in all three phases.
Yeah, it was really a heck of a football game, and I describe it as kind of a coming out party for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, because, yeah, they were 4-0 going into that game, but it was narrow margin wins in the back-to-backs against the Ottawa Red Blacks. Played pretty good against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, but they were clearly a team that was having trouble, especially offensively. And then a Toronto game that was a lot closer than people maybe expected, with a missed convert that, making that game avoid overtime, and Winnipeg coming away with a 1-point victory. So some people were wondering why the Lions were so favored in that game, or going into that game. All of that is in the rearview mirror right now. It was really a good battle. Some of those deep shots Nathan Rourke took for long touchdowns were really impressive. Josh Pearson with a 66-yard catch and run to get the Lions on the board. Dominique Grimes was an absolute monster in this game, Nick. As you know, 8 targets. He had 6 catches for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not a CFL top performer of the week. They ended up giving that to Dalton Schoen with 8 for 117 and 2 touchdowns. Really, you could pick either of those receivers and give them a performer of the week award. I would say right now, the BC Lions probably, maybe Calgary's in that mix, but I don't know if I would put another group of receivers ahead of what the BC Lions have. Is that Nathan Rourke? Is that just the receiver talent on its own? I think you could probably argue either way. I love how the way you put, Zach Collaros is a hard man to catch, because once he got rolling and the Blue Bombers offense got rolling, it probably was a very tough thing to catch. But another person that was tough to catch was Janarian Grant, an opening play kick return touchdown. Tell me about the energy on the BC Lions bench when, 15 seconds into the game, you're down 7-0.
I don't think anything really changed. I think that the only thing that changed is that you're down 7 on the scoreboard, but you still have 59 minutes of football to play. So yeah. There was no finger pointing, nobody. It happened in a blur too. That's another thing. It felt like it happened. It did happen in about 10 seconds in real time. Yeah. But next thing you know, you're just getting the opening. It felt like you're almost getting the opening kickoff, but you're just down 7-0. And I know Nathan's the type of guy. He's very even keel. We saw that last week in Ottawa, where he threw back-to-back interceptions, went back out there and threw a 70-yard touchdown pass. Like, he's never out of it. He doesn't have that belief that he's not a quitter. We know that. So the sideline I thought was totally fine. There was, again, even throughout the game, this team, they haven't had that much of adversity yet. Obviously, the blowout wins in the first couple of weeks, but even after, they said, like, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. We have to stick with each other in the hard times too. We can't just always love each other while we're up. We got to love each other while we're down too. And that's kind of the message they're taking into the future weeks here. And yeah, and to add on to Janarian Grant, I mean, if people forgot about who Janarian Grant is and the talent he brings, I think everyone's reminded now that he obviously had another one that was called back. And just the Bomber special teams too. They really put on a show in that game.
Yeah, I talked about it on the post-game show here on Bonfire Sports. The play Mike Miller made on a block to send Janarian Grant for that 97-yard touchdown, and then he made the tackle on the kickoff to the BC Lions. Like, that guy is as good as he's ever been as a special teamer. Of course, future Hall of Famer, no doubt, the killer Mike Miller with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Love what Sinner Saint is saying here. He's watching live on YouTube. Hit that like button, folks. Go Blue. Love to hear that. And thanks to everybody who's joining us in the live chat tonight. Nick Kowalski, our old friend of Bonfire Sports, joining us on Bonfire midweek, breaking down CFL Week 5 and looking ahead to Week 6. Now, Week 6, Nick, has the BC Lions on their second bye already this season. I won't ask you to comment on this specifically, but something that stood out to me was the BC Lions had training camp and then a game against a team we knew was going to be probably weak to start the season, and they showed it, absolutely clobbering the Edmonton Elks. A bye in Week 2, as an aside, kind of tough for CFL fans to swallow when they saw what Nathan Rourke and the BC Lions were capable of in Week 1. Not able to watch them in Week 2, I think, brought the hype down a little bit. But it was back in Week 3. The Lions had all a training camp to prepare for their first game. They had a bye week to prepare for their second game. And then the Lions went on the road, and it was a much more narrow margin win against the Ottawa Redblacks. All of those things were maybe one of the reasons, or some of the reasons, why I picked the Blue Bombers to beat the Lions last week. I'll stop patting myself on the back for that, Nick. But now another bye, and this is what I will ask you, is when you got 2 byes early in the season, how do you use that to your advantage? How does a team ensure that they're, getting the most value they can when you got 2 byes in the first 6 weeks and only 1 the rest of the way?
I think outside of the obvious, and being that you get the injured players, they get an extra week to heal up. That's kind of the obvious point that helps with the bye. But I think that the main thing, at least our players are doing, is spending time together and getting to know each other better. I think we have a lot of guys here who are here late hours, especially Nathan. And when I say late hours, I mean studying the playbook, working out, getting better in a football sense. But I know now, if you follow any of these guys on Instagram or social media or anything like that, I know they all went to the beach yesterday and hung out, and now they're actually all on jet skis today. If you want to go follow like James Butler, Dominique
What a life,
Rhymes,
eh?
Quincy Mogier, yeah, they all rented out some jet skis today. So they're all putting that on their Instagram today. So I think just getting we always hear about in sports team bonding, and I think that's what they're kind of doing right now. It's all you really can do, right? Aside from stay healthy, get your treatment, and just prepare for this upcoming stretch coming up. I know we have Hamilton at home next, and then it is a bit of a tough stretch where we have Regina, 2 trips to Regina, and then a trip to Calgary, and the Elks are back here in town too. So it is going to be a tough stretch coming up, but thankfully the team is quite healthy right now. I know Bola Kumbo went down on Saturday.
Right.
Brian Burnham's doing very well. All he's really waiting for right now is just to get cleared for contact. But other than that, I know he's feeling very well. So those are the plus sides of having the week off, is that those 2 guys can have an extra week to get healed up.
Yeah, I like how Brian Burnham spoke to Blake Price on the sidelines on the TSN broadcast, saying, my lungs are good. And that was what I was most concerned about. When you have a punctured lung, as a pro athlete, as anybody, you want to make sure that your organs are in the best shape they can be. But then mentioning, while his lungs are good, the ribs will take time to heal. Ribs are tough. They hurt a lot when injured. And then, of course, when you're a football player and you're taking tackles, it almost doesn't matter how you're tackled, at the ankles, at the shoulders, or anywhere in between, you're going to feel it in your ribs. But hoping for the best for Brian Burnham, no question about that. I love this question from one of my favorite commenters here on Bonfire Sports, Waiters27, always got great hot takes and some good jokes as well in the live chat. Will Lucky Whitehead attend the Blue Bombers game on Friday? The Lions are on a bye. It's a marquee matchup. We've seen him in the crowd, in I can't even, in the beer snake section, just down from the Rum Hut, rocking things in the north end zone. Who knows? You think Lucky might jump in the purple truck and drive to Winnipeg or catch a flight?
We got some nice weather here in Vancouver, and he has his puppy here now. That's taken up a lot of his time. If you follow him on social media, he posts about his puppy a lot right now. But I think he's going to be staying in Vancouver for the week.
Yeah, I imagine he will be too. There is work to do for everybody. How fun is it?
FYI too.
Yeah.
That Waiters27, that their picture right now, that's my picture.
Oh, there you go.
Bailey? Yeah.
Okay, I'll pull it up again for people to look. Yes, there's Rashid flexing. So that's a Nick Kowalski original.
Yeah, that's one of my pictures from last season.
Beautiful. Love it. So you must be having a blast working with personalities like Lucky Whitehead. We see him come into the stadium every single week with, whether it's a banana skateboard or a scooter or what did he have? The hot dog cart with the umbrella and everything, just unbelievable creativity and personality. To me, that's one of the most important things in professional sports. We don't see it too much in the National Hockey League. We see it a little bit in the NFL. We see it a lot in the NBA. I'm loving that the Canadian Football League and some of the personalities and senses of humor are coming out. You must be having a blast capturing some of these moments.
Yeah, exactly. Like you mentioned, the personalities within a football team, and that's my main job almost, is to capture those personalities and put them out there for people to see. And Lucky's definitely at the top of that list. The backstory behind last Saturday was Lucky's always trying to find different entrances and for our home games, and we have that ice cream truck that we use for promotional activations throughout the province. Has been around, actually. It's been in Kamloops and Kelowna and all of that, but it was suggested that Lucky ride the ice cream truck into the game from the alleyway. And then somebody said, well, Lucky lives pretty close by to the BC Place. What if we deliver it to him and he rides it from his home to the stadium? So at about noon, it was a 4:00 kickoff on Saturday. at about noon, me and one of the events people, I walked beside him and he rode it up to his apartment, and we said, "Hey, Lucky, we're here." And then we put a GoPro on it. We'll have more content coming out later in the week with that. But I quickly put together some of my shots from him riding the ice cream truck around downtown Vancouver and then into the stadium. And yeah, Lucky's great too. Like Lucky, he's always obviously willing to participate in whatever content you want. We also have like a Tim Bonner is another name that is just, if you ask any BC Lion who is the funniest teammate they have, I guarantee you 9 out of 10 will say Tim Bonner. He is just everything he says is hilarious. Yeah, just how he goes about himself is just it's hilarious, and the guys love him. But it's my job to really capture that and put that out there for people to see, right? So
yeah,
it's a close locker room. It's a funny locker room, and it's pretty great to work around these guys on a daily basis.
Oh, I'm jealous. I have no doubt you're having the time of your life, working in the Canadian Football League. You mentioned Tim Bonner. I have a buddy named Tim Bonner who lives right here in Winnipeg. Big Jets fan.
No way.
Not too crazy about the CFL, but I told him, I'm like, there's a guy on the BC Lions. I told him last season with your name. I'm also friends with a Robert Drummond. Never heard of the Toronto Argonauts running back, but I'm going to try to find a Robert Drummond card. I'm trying to, what was it? Jugo? Whatever. I think it was the Jugo cards, probably before your time, Nick. You're still pretty young, but those playing cards in the CFL back in the 90s, I'm still trying to find a Robert Drummond for him. But I was telling Winnipeg's Tim Bonner about BC's Tim Bonner. I'm like, in 2020, I'm like, this guy's a good football player. It's first year in the league. He's a starter. He's making things happen. Now we're seeing in year 2, Nick, Tim Bonner is a very, very good defensive tackle in the CFL, probably helping swallow the bitter pill that was losing Steven Richardson, affectionately known as Stove, here during his time with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, losing him for the season. That was a big free agent signing the Lions made.
100%. Yeah. And I know the people in Winnipeg know about the Stove and how important he was on that defensive line in the last two Grey Cup runs that Winnipeg had. And yeah, unfortunately it was a training injury that he suffered, long-term injury to the Achilles. But
crazy with those Achilles and off, training injuries.
It's just unfortunate, right? Yeah. But Woody Barron is someone who actually arrived, continuing the Lions talk a bit, but Woody Barron did arrive in Vancouver last week. He's still on the 6-game injured list. He was on the sideline on Saturday. So there's some more defensive line help coming, hopefully for us. And I know Coach John Bowman loves to use the defensive linemen as more of a rotation. They dress about 8 or 9 a game, and they like to rotate pretty much all 8 or 9 into actual game reps. So that's more of a common theme around the CFL right now too, with how teams deploy their defensive linemen.
Yep, tons of rotation, right? I think it's smart. When you got like Charleston Hughes, what is he in year 37 of his CFL career? Yeah. I joke, of course, he's probably closer to that in actual years of age, but keep fresh legs, keep guys, energized. That's how you're going to get good pressure on a quarterback. That offensive line, they're not swapping guys in and out at all, frankly. So to get fresh legs, I think is a good thing. Wanted to pull up this comment a little bit earlier in the live chat. Sandy, who's always watching live on YouTube. What's going on, Sandy? Thanks for the question. Why did the Lions pull Nathan Rourke with 4 minutes left in the game? Seemed like a slap in the face. I don't think it was a slap in the face at all. I can understand how maybe it would seem that way. But, we're talking about a football game that was 43-22 really from that point on. You want to preserve your star quarterback in a game that really was probably out of reach at that point, right?
Yeah. I know after the game, Coach Rick Campbell just said that it was simply told Nathan that we're going to live to fight another day, and simple as that. And Michael O'Connor got the last 2 possessions, I want to say, at quarterback for BC, and that's all there really was to it. It was not performance based. Obviously, I thought Nathan played. Obviously, the turnovers hurt, but I thought overall Nathan played pretty well. Threw for almost 300 yards, a lot of deep ball completions, which is good to see from a Lions perspective, but. yeah, like the game is out of reach, and like I said, just live the fight another day.
Yeah, no, I think it was a smart move at that point. I probably would have done the same thing, trailing like that with just a few minutes left. I guess maybe final thought on this Lions Bombers game, and big thanks to you, Nick, for joining us. A very unique perspective, a Winnipegger, a former Bonfire contributor, and just an overall great guy you are, Nick. To have you now as a member of the BC Lions, an employee with them, doing great digital media work and videography, getting your unique perspective on probably the biggest marquee game in the CFL so far this season, that Winnipeg was able to come away with a win. What I was really impressed with, maybe more than anything in that game, like Zach Collaros was awesome. I thought the Lions put up a good fight, and Nathan Rourke, those deep shots really exposed, I think, the one area Winnipeg's defense does unfortunately allow, and that is those big, deep explosion plays. But I really want to tip my hat to defensive coordinator Richie Hall. He did a masterful job drawing up a game plan that just worked in, especially early in keeping Nathan Rourke off schedule, a little bit uncomfortable, and it ultimately led to those turnovers the BC Lions committed in that game. I think that's what you got to do. You a young quarterback, really any quarterback, you try to get them off schedule, you try to make them uncomfortable. And the way that they just moved guys around, like to see Jackson Jeffcoat drop back like he did. TSN did an amazing job breaking that play down and watching Nathan Rourke go through his progressions, the things, his tendencies, the things that he's used to doing. And then Winnipeg kind of playing to that tendency and putting somebody you wouldn't expect to be in a passing lane, and that's the defensive end in Jackson Jeffcoat that really kind of got things rolling for the Blue Bombers, let alone the job offensive coordinator Buck Pierce did putting some serious sprinkles, chocolate sauce, and a cherry on top of a vanilla offense. I described the Blue Bombers offense as tepid, as a little bit vanilla. And then I remember that was last game or the game prior. And then I said, maybe uninspired is a better way to describe it. It was former Blue Bomber Marcus Sales who called it vanilla. It was the bulletin board material everybody was talking about really from coast to coast, Nick. And to see Winnipeg's offense come out, do a lot of different things, open things up a lot. The run game looked different and rejuvenated. Greg McCrae got involved in the pass game and the run game, which I think was a great thing. I only see Greg McCrae's role on the Blue Bombers growing, especially with Nick Dembski still on the 6-game injured list. Give me your thought on the Blue Bombers vanilla offense. I was going to ask you about it.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, plain and simple, they just executed better on offense. The run game was there. The blocking I thought was there, which was really important for a guy like Brady Olivier to get going in that game, which I'm sure Winnipeg fans are very happy to see. And then you got Greg Ellenson, Dalton Schoen. I mean, was there a drop on Saturday? Did a receiver drop a ball? Even Rashid Bailey had one catch, and it's right along the sideline, and he still has a presence of mind to get his elbow in about a half an inch before the sideline, the white sideline. So, I mean, Winnipeg's execution was off the charts, in my opinion. The comment, I'm all for, I mean, bulletin board material. Yes, I'm all for talking the talk, but as long as you can walk the walk afterwards, I mean, that's all it boils down to, right? I mean, a guy like Willie Jefferson's also someone who talks a lot in the media and even on the field too, but he's someone who can back it up with his play, right? So that doesn't get any harsh criticism, but yeah, it was a bulletin board material comment, and Winnipeg came out and they made their plays, and here we are now, right? A lot of emojis I'm seeing.
Yes, well, Brett Olson poking you a little bit, saying Nick is alive after last game. Oh yeah, Nick's alive and kicking. So are the BC Lions. Week 6. Yeah, I'm not. On to Hamilton. You are right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, bye week, and then we're all ready for the Ticats.
Yeah, no, I think I don't even know if I want to get I was going to go to Garrett Marino, but I'll give one last thought on the comment from Marcus Sales. I'm never going to blame a guy for saying what he feels, like ever. Say what you feel. And you're right. You want to talk like that, back it up. I have no, going into that game, I'm looking at Gary Peters and TJ Lee and Delvin Breaux and Marcus Sales and Luchez Purifoy. And I'm like, that's an all-star team of defensive backs right there. Like,
yeah.
And Bola Combo in the middle, and then, Guachi and Tim Bonner, like we were talking about on the D-line. Like, BC's defense maybe hadn't faced a quarterback like Zach Collaros, maybe hadn't faced an offense like we saw Winnipeg play on Saturday, but BC's defense and the team, the BC Lions themselves, I don't think anybody should look past them just because Winnipeg, beat them by, 21 points. That game could have been a lot different. Mike O'Shea spoke about that today, Nick, in saying that if there was a couple more, big shots like that, like it could have been a football game, like in a matter of a couple minutes, right? Those 2 touchdown drives to Pearson and to, why is it escaping me?
Dominic
Grimes. Those were like 1.5 minute, 2-minute drives, 2-3 plays, and boom, they're in the end zone. So don't sleep on the BC Lions. Nathan Rourke, these receivers, it can happen. And then as far as the defense, they'll be eating that vanilla ice cream for a little bit. I get that. But I think the BC Lions are in the mix with Winnipeg, with with Calgary, and probably even Saskatchewan still in the West Division. It's really just kind of Edmonton on the outside looking in. Nick, I want to ask you about, your pilgrimage from Winnipeg to BC. Can we quickly get this out of the way, because fans are still talking about it? The discipline came down. It'll be 4 games for Garrett Marino. Your thoughts on all of that transpired?
I think a lot of what has really, I agree with a lot that's been said about from the media, from players even. It's been interesting to see players publicly go out in interviews and on social media as well, and really defend their teammate. And really both ways I've been seeing a couple of Saskatchewan Roughriders say, well, what about what Ottawa was doing, and giving video or visuals about some plays that Ottawa was making, because the end of that game really got out of hand. And it was really unfortunate what happened with, obviously, the comment that the CFL investigated Garrett Marino used toward Jeremiah Mazzoli. The hit too, obviously, there's been a couple of instances where Garrett Marino has gone low on a quarterback, and unfortunately it did result in injury for Mazzoli, right? And it's a suspendable offense, and I think from here you can really hope that Garrett Marino he learns from this. He's an effective player too. I want to put that out there. He's a good player. Yeah, he's part of that Riders D line that I was mentioning that maybe is the best in the CFL. But you just hope that as a person he can learn from his mistake in terms of what the comments were saying, and maybe his actual actions that he displayed the night before the hit, even that was alleged, and even what the camera caught on TSN after the hit, and just on the field too, just to know better to make that hit, right?
Well, I said this on Game Day After Dark in our post-game show following the Bombers Lions game, because that Saskatchewan game was the night before. The hit, like, football plays happen, okay? And people were calling for him to be kicked out of the league and the rest. Go check out Game Day After Dark. I give my full thoughts on it all there. But I will reiterate this. The way Garrett Marino chose to behave after the play and leaving the field with the flexing and the goading on the crowd and that entire demeanor he had, not just unprofessional, but embarrassing for Marino. Zach Collaros, amongst many players in the CFL today and over the last few days, talking about the play and everything, how it's an embarrassment for the league. To me, the only embarrassment is on Garrett Marino himself. Players can make mistakes. Adam Bighill talked about it today here in Winnipeg, Nick. 10 years ago, these rules didn't exist to protect quarterbacks. Hits like that would happen all the time because guys would just, they're coached and trained to play to the echo of the whistle, to, essentially exert as much violence and frankly pain on their opponent as possible. Big Hill talked about that. You don't, he said, if you want to come to the middle and get a headache every time all game long, that's up to you. But being physically imposing and being, that type of player is what makes good football players, like Ray Lewis or, Lawrence Taylor or whoever, Reggie White or whoever. Like, those guys were good because they could smack you in the mouth and you'd remember it. So I understand plays happen. If a guy does it once, okay, yeah, get fined, suspension, whatever it might be. Hopefully it never happens again. But this has been over and over again with Garrett Marino, and then to have no remorse and be a total jackass after the fact with the flexing and everything else, that's where I lose any shadow of benefit of the doubt. That embarrassed me. I can't imagine how embarrassed Garrett Marino is. I sure hope he's embarrassed. To me, that was the worst part. Let's move on from that. As Mike O'Shea said, there is some great marquee matchups in the CFL, great stories to be told. So why are we focusing on that? I agree with Mike O'Shea in his sentiments today to the Winnipeg media, Nick. I imagine you do too. I want to ask you about this amazing opportunity you got to be hired by the BC Lions, to move from your hometown here in Winnipeg. I hope I'm not, telling stories out of school, but like, you're making less money than the job you had here in Winnipeg working for the BC Lions, but you're chasing your dream. You're doing what you love. You're living in beautiful British Columbia and covering the Canadian Football League, a league I know from firsthand experience you love like little else in the world. Tell us about the opportunity, your decision, and how it's been going so far. You touched on a little bit at the beginning, but I want to hear more.
Yeah, I mean, it started late last year, where I got connected with some of the employees here, and I was essentially, after a couple months, offered this position that I'm currently in, and it was a no-brainer for me to accept it and move across the country, drive across the country. Actually, I did that in January, my little Hyundai. But it's been fantastic. I mean, it is, like you said, I'm in it for the passion of the job. That's my main priority here. I love what I do. I'm always trying to get better, always trying to do better for the organization, and it's been great so far. I mean, I'm hoping that from what I've at least from what I'm seeing and hearing, even with talking with people, that people are thinking that the content game in the CFL as a whole has upped its game this year, taken another level up, and that makes me super happy to hear. That's really that's my goal, is just to try different things, provide fans with different things right now, and just make the content more I guess engaging for whoever's consuming it.
Yep.
And I think throughout the league too. I know I was actually talking with Riley Mara on the sideline on Saturday, who is works with Winnipeg and has for years, and he said that he was impressed with what we are doing here. But I told him back. I said, you guys do dramatic videos and content like no other, and your graphics are awesome. And just I was very happy to tell him that Winnipeg's content is fantastic, and it has been for years too. And I mean, we've seen what Ottawa's doing with their Behind the R documentary. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Social media. The Argos social media account is hilarious.
Yeah, the Argos, they always bring it. Yeah, it's always fun seeing what they're up to. Just across the league though, and even the CFL, they're doing these hype videos too that are really cool. And I mean, I'm pretty impressed with everybody all around, and it just fuels us to really improve our own content as well, and we're just kind of all making each other better, right?
Yep. No, absolutely. And like, again, another thing I can attest firsthand is your work ethic, Nick. When you came with me to Hamilton, and we were pumping out the content, interviews, and the dramatic stuff you did, the images to music and all that sort of stuff you did. You can still find it on Bonfire's Instagram account, bonfire.sports. You can find it on Nick's Instagram as well. Nick, you just got awesome stuff out there, and you're right. You are somebody that's always just trying to get better. But yeah, like you and Riley were talking about, that's a sentiment a lot of people, not just in the Canadian Football League, but in sports, have been talking about this shift from legacy media, television, radio, and newspapers to the digital realm. Like Andrew Hustler Patterson doing it here with Michael Remus on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Kenny and Rennie, and then the work that they're doing, after Jets games and covering the National Hockey League. We're seeing it with Sekeres and Price, and you and Matt Baker out in Vancouver. Like, this is the direction everything's going. Bonfire, we're proud to be part of that party moving forward. And it all happens because of the people that are in the live chat right now, like Comet, who's congratulating you on the job, who is it? Brett Olson saying, like the videos you do behind the scenes is amazing. I couldn't agree more. Some of the stuff you guys are doing is just like, oh man, like I'd never thought of that. Just the creativity and the ability to do it now so much easier because of technology, I think is just an awesome thing, and bringing fans more intimate, more engaged, like you said, compelling things. And in mediums just like this, to be able to, bring people in and the, comments like, okay, here's Bob Ross, Lions finishing, I don't know, TH in the West. That's a guarantee. But like, to be able to bring those comments in and make it part of the conversation, you can't do that on any other medium. So it's just awesome what the future holds. I'll digress from that. My favorite word here on Bonfire Sports. Was it a hard decision for you, Nick, to leave Winnipeg, leave everything you've ever known, being a born and raised Winnipegger, and, the work you've done for the Bisons and for Three Down Nation here in Winnipeg, and, your career in marketing and digital media that you started?
Mm-hmm. I'll add to that. Well, yeah, like you said, Winnipeg fans are definitely spoiled with Winnipeg Sports Talk with Hustler, and then Bonfire Sports here too. Like all the content that they can consume with Jets, Bombers, really all Winnipeg sports. I mean, it's pretty fantastic what you and Hustler are really doing, and with their own two different platforms too, right? Yeah. But in terms of my decision, no, it was a big decision, but I don't think it was a hard decision. It's one I never really thought about, to be honest. I knew from the get-go that I had to tell my parents. That was the one thing, that I was leaving the city. They still live in Winnipeg, but yeah, Brett Olson, my Transcona buddy. I was leaving Transcona. That was maybe a tough decision, but no, I mean, I really like the city of Winnipeg. I mean, I went to many Bomber games as a kid. I went to many Jets games even too, and always enjoyed the city. The summers in Winnipeg are great, as I'm sure you all are experiencing right now. I'm hearing it's been pretty hot overall in Winnipeg, but
it's nice.
It wasn't. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to take a new challenge in life too. That's another thing too. And if it didn't work out, then I could always come back home. But I mean, I just wanted to see what I could do and challenge myself even.
Yeah. Well, and what a great place to go to. Like, I know Matt Baker well from many, many years of working in the CFL and, around all those people. Like, you couldn't have a better, right hand or person to kind of be introduced to working on a team than Matty right there. But you also get to go to, Southern BC, where the weather is nice a lot of the time. I don't think it's rained too much this year, has it?
Yeah, the rain comes a lot. I mean, I might make some people cringe here, but I've only seen I moved here in January 13th, and I have seen snow twice.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
we officially hate you, Nick. We officially hate you from here in Manitoba.
Yeah. Exactly. And then like you said, the people that I'm working with are fantastic. I mean, the guys, they're really genuine. Like, it starts with Nathan too, but also someone like Rick Campbell and Neil McAvoy too. They've given me the pleasure of having all the access that I've got to have. throughout the offseason and now too. And then the team we have here, there's a big team of us behind the scenes that allows us to put out what we can. And I mean, it's just been a blast so far too. And Vancouver is a nice city.
Absolutely. I'm just getting the idiots out of the live chat here. Pardon me, Nick.
No
Sorry for the spam, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight here on Bonfire Sports. We're not talking about BC. We're talking about a Winnipegger who is chasing his dream and leaving his hometown to work in the Canadian Football League. Nick, this is something I know you can attest to, because when you came to the Grey Cup with me in Hamilton this past year, it was kind of your first introduction to the community that is CFL media. Tell me about that, learning about, the Football Reporters of Canada, our hospitality suite being a great kind of mixer or spot for all of us to come together and talk and relax and kick back and share stories and the rest. What really resonated with you when you got an opportunity to meet everybody, whether it was, reporters from Ottawa or Montreal or, even some in Winnipeg you had never met before, or BC or Calgary or wherever?
Yeah, I mean, it was such a cool experience. I could go on and on about that week, and I mentioned it off the top that it's one that I'll remember forever, and I'm forever grateful for you for actually giving me the opportunity, because
oh man, we had a blast.
But without you or without Bonfire, that opportunity doesn't exist. But I mean, the thing about that week is I literally went from the airport right to the Bombers media day with you, and we just went right into it. Like literally was getting my camera set up in the Uber on the way to the Bombers media day, and we just went right into it. So the same thing happened after the game too. When we go on the field and you just go right into it, and you're saying, okay, we got this player, let's go film him. I'm interviewing him, and seeing you do your work, and me and you kind of tag teaming. You would do the audio, I would do the video, and we'd all plan that out. And even the day before, brainstorming what we're going to do the next day. It was a lot of fun. And then there's the fact that you get to hang out and speak with the Farhan Lalji's and the Dave Naylors and Steve Simmons, Tim Baines. I could go on and on with people. I'm leaving a lot of names out that I met, and the community there, everybody was so welcoming. I was just a young kid, really, to them. They didn't know me, but it didn't matter. I mean, they were very welcoming when it comes to really all the media there, and it was a fantastic week. But like being in the locker room with you and getting Stanley Bryant to get emotional after the game, and Drew Wolodarski smoking a stogie in front of us while you're talking to him, like those are some memories that I still see clearly in my head. To this day. Yeah.
No doubt. Like those championship locker rooms, I've had the privilege to be in, a few now Grey Cup championship locker rooms. My first was here in Winnipeg when Mike Riley and the Edmonton football team at that time, won Grey Cup 103 in 2015 here in Winnipeg. And, to be in those rooms, to feel that, I don't know what you would describe it. Like what's the emotion you remember in that room? Not your emotion, but the one you were kind of feeling from others, because it's more than just joy and elation. It's, like when you see guys, breaking down, when you see guys, having introspection or having, like Drew Wolodarski shared, it goes beyond just like, hey, we won a championship. Let's have some drinks and enjoy. It's almost like they're feeling back to all of the work they did to get them to that point. And ultimately, that's pro sports. Overtime, like it could have easily been the other way, where, they could have been looking back at all the work they did all season and not have a championship at the end.
Yeah. And after like the obvious one of like happiness, I would say like maybe relief and satisfaction are two words that would come to mind about that locker room. I mean, a lot of players are probably were going through, they were not at 100% in terms of their body. So they're going through different injuries, and the season's over. You did it. Like the goal you achieved for the season, you've reached. So that's a relief right there. We saw with Stanley kind of just sitting in his locker, being in relief that like they did it. They won the whole championship. They set out their goal, and they're satisfied with what all the effort they put into that final game, and it all paid off for another championship and defending their title right now, right?
Yeah, like that was just such a fun game too. Like with Sergio Castillo going 5 for 5, 6 for 6, whatever he was in that howling wind. The tip play in overtime that really, sealed it all, and just how amazing that was to see Nichols get a piece of it, and then Winston Rose, unbelievable play to scoop it up, and then have the interception to lock it down. Seeing two quarterbacks from the Ticats in that game, and how rejuvenated the Ticats looked with Masoli in for Dane Evans, and then to see Masoli leave, in free agency in the offseason, and have Hamilton choose to go with Dane Evans is, that was just kind of interesting. The knee in the end zone that is still mystifying to so many. What blows me away, Nick, is that when you ask people on the record about it, they'll say it was the right play. Like nobody ever wants to hang anybody out to dry. Doesn't matter what team you even talk to. But then behind the scenes, the conversations you have off the record with people in the CFL, and they're mystified as to why that happened. Like to have something like that in a rematch game that went to overtime between two teams that were, playing, each other for that second straight Grey Cup over 3 years because of that pandemic year in the middle, the Ticats on home field, the majority of the crowd on their side, and to have Winnipeg win it the way they did in overtime. Like just, you can't write that stuff. It's almost like fate and the way it shakes out, told a story you couldn't create if you tried.
I mean, there's some sort of curse right now at Tim Hortons Field too with those tips. We saw the Calgary game. Calgary scored 30 like this year. Calgary scores 33 points, just like Winnipeg, and it ends on a tipped interception. It's weird. And then the fumble against Edmonton last week, or the other week there in Canada Day. Something's wrong with Tim Hortons Field, and I'm not taking the Tiger Cats lightly for our Week 7 matchup. I am of belief that Tiger Cats are still a force, and they've shown moments this year where they're running teams out of the building, especially in that Calgary game, that first half. They were running the Stamps out of the building. I think people forget that they're just missing that maybe consistency, or like that just final effort that it takes to get the 2 points. But I think like Hamilton they were winning the Grey Cup for last year for majority of the game. Winnipeg didn't even score a touchdown until the fourth quarter. And I think people are just totally writing the Ticats off right now. I'm going on a little bit of a Ticats rant because I'm not taking them lightly at all. I think their 0-4 record is nowhere near what it represents. And I mean, if we were looking ahead here too, I expect them to get in the win column this weekend as well.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Ottawa with, Nick Arbuckle just there. I can't imagine he will play in Hamilton this week. So it's going to be up to Caleb Evans, in a battle of winless teams, while here in Winnipeg, we got a battle of unbeaten teams. Friday night, we'll get the pregame going Thursday with myself and Chris Walby and Game Day Winnipeg here on Bonfire Sports. But Nick, I won't ask how old you were in 2011, because I think I do know how old you were in 2011, but you were old enough to remember that Winnipeg Blue Bombers Grey Cup trip and losing to the BC Lions in Vancouver. That season, the Lions started 0-5. So everyone's like looking at Hamilton at 0-4, and they're a team, just months removed from a Grey Cup, a Grey Cup appearance. I'm not writing Hamilton off, especially in the East Division. They could easily make a run back,
Yeah. Well, right now, why isn't Hamilton the favorite to win the East in the regular season? Why wouldn't they be?
Well, I guess just because they can't muster a win. But, Toronto has fallen backwards into a win with a missed Montreal Alouettes 27-yard field goal, David Cote, with, 15 seconds left. So that could have easily been a game. Who did Montreal's one win come against? I can't even remember now.
Montreal beat Saskatchewan. They blew them out too.
And then, blew them out, and then 37-13. And then the next week in Saskatchewan, they get beaten down 41-20. So, they've been very up and down, and now moving on from their head coach in letting Baron Miles, their defensive coordinator, and head coach Kahari Jones go. So, like Scott Roger mentions here, somebody that knows football pretty well, Dane Evans is not a rising phoenix. Have we seen the best of Dane Evans? I don't know, but everything's going to hang on him to turn things around for the Ticats.
And I made sure to watch his post game after the Edmonton game because he was very visibly upset, and he really had no answers too, right? He said, I don't know what's going on, and you could tell that it was a hard loss for him, and it was a loss that unfortunately he kind of handed to the Elks at the end there with his fumble. But I'm like I said, I'm not writing Hamilton off at all, and a lot of the reason too is because that unfortunately Mazzoli is no longer going to be under center for the Red Blacks for a long amount of time, so that totally opens the door in the East Division. And I think Hamilton is I think they're right there in terms of taking the first spot in the East Division. They're only they're 2 points behind first right now, right? Still without a win.
Sorry, who's that?
Because Hamilton would be 2 points out of first right now.
That's right. That's it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got 1-2 Toronto, 1-3 Montreal, and then 0-4 Ottawa, 0-4 Hamilton.
Yeah.
Like the East is wide open. I would imagine we're going to see a crossover this year. Could be anybody of Winnipeg, Calgary, Saskatchewan, BC. I don't think Edmonton has the horses to make things happen this year. But I mean, hey. This is the Canadian Football League. This is why we love it. I was just looking, Nick, of when we're going to see you and your club, the BC Lions, again. And it is a big stretch of time. October 15th in Vancouver. Then the Bombers have their third and final bye week. And then Friday, October 28th, a Halloween matchup at IG Field between the Lions and the Bombers. You and Matt Baker will be in town. Maybe we'll have to find like a Halloween social and show Baker exactly what Manitoba is all about.
Yeah, I'm sure Baker's gonna be all for that. I know he said that they like to frequent I think they just hang around on Portage Avenue when they visit Winnipeg. So
or Main. They go to Earl's on Main. That's all they know.
That too. Yeah, exactly. So we'll have to expand that. I think I can give a pretty good Winnipeg tour given my previous.
Well, you'll have to tour him Transcona, and I'll tour him the rest of Winnipeg proper.
I told them Little Bones. Little Bones would be a good local spot.
Yep. Now, Gregory Liverpool mentioning 1990s night on that home game with BC. I'm all about that. Nick, you can come in some corduroy pants and size 6X romper, like grade 1.
Well, I'm probably gonna have to bring my parka, right, for that one.
I'm trying to
October
joke about your age. It just didn't land.
October 28th. I'm probably gonna have to. Could be a snow game for all we know, right?
It could be. You know what? It could also be plus 20.
Like in Hamilton the day before the Grey Cup.
Right. Well, you got to remember the Grey Cup here. A lot of people don't know this. Grey Cup 103 in 2015 here in Winnipeg. It was freezing cold all week. And then on game day, it went to +5. I remember I was in the press box doing stats for the TSN radio broadcast. I was standing right behind Rod Black and Julio Caravata, who I'm sure you've had a chance to meet in Vancouver, Nick.
Yeah. Julio is an awesome guy. Yeah.
Beauty guy. But I remember standing open window in the press box at the Grey Cup in Winnipeg after a freezing prep week. I didn't even have a toque on. Like, it was beautiful. It was warmer in Winnipeg on Grey Cup Sunday than it was in Vancouver. People don't know that. It got really cold in Vancouver that day. And I think that game it was supposed to be indoors in Vancouver at BC Place. They ended up having it in Winnipeg. Wade Miller winning that Grey Cup bid. And it was a gorgeous day. You'd always hope for that for a Grey Cup game outdoors, in a place like Winnipeg. I'm wondering what it's going to be like in Regina for the 109th Grey Cup this November.
I'm going to guess cold.
You going to go?
I plan to be there.
Good.
With my club.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, you plan to be working that week.
Exactly.
Well, maybe we'll get a crossover.
Keep it at that. No bulletin board.
Yeah, exactly. Smart move. See, you may be young, but you're wise well beyond your years, Nick. This was tons of fun, man. I really miss you and the incredible work you did on Bonfire Sports. I miss just being able to hang out with you, man. It's amazing how you and I haven't known each other that long, but you really do feel like a long-term friend of mine, like a brother, a little brother. So, thanks for doing this, man. I hope we can do it again soon. But always tons of fun talking ball with you, man.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree with what you just said. And I'm happy to come on whenever. And it's always fun, like I said, talking CFL football.
Yeah. Well, and I won't knock you too much for being a Lions guy now, but hey, if a CFL team was cutting me a paycheck, I'd probably be pulling for them too. So we forgive you.
roar like never before.
Oh, roar like never before. Is that the motto this year?
That's the slogan this year. Yep.
Okay.
The signs are everywhere downtown Vancouver. If you come here, you won't miss them.
Well, hey, it's better than Toronto because you can't see anything there on the Argos, but we'll leave that there. Nick, thanks again for this, man. Stay in touch. And as you have been doing, keep popping onto our Bonfire live streams in the live chat. Always love seeing you there, man.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Well, nice talking, and we'll do this again soon, DB.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Bonfire Midweek. We'll see you on the pregame on Thursday at 3 and then game day after dark after Bombers and Stampeders on Friday night. Thanks again.